Hey guys, welcome to Spanish. First off, in Spanish, you say Spanish as español. That's something to remember if you ever visit Spain or any of the other Spanish-speaking countries. So in this video, I'm going to introduce you to the beginning Spanish. And first thing to know is basic grammar. Obviously, when you start a language, you need to know its alphabet. So Spanish has 30 letters in the alphabet, 4 more than we do. But most of them are similar. What I write how you pronounce the letter on the side and what the actual letter is on the left side. So A is A, B, C. Now this is one of the 4 letters that don't show up in the English language. So this is CH and it's pronounced che. D, A. Difference between A and E is that A is A, as in the deep A, and E is A. E is how you pronounce A in English. F, he. G is not pronounced as J, or it's just he. It's silent most of the time, but when it's before some certain vowels, it's pronounced with a hard G. H is H, and this is a silent letter. You never pronounce it. So for example, in the word hora, which means hour, the H isn't pronounced. So it's pronounced hora, not hora. E is I. J is ota. Ka. L. Now this is double L's. And it's not pronounced as LA, it's pronounced AY. It sort of sounds like a Y more than an L. M, N. This is N with a tilde, and it's NY. It's NY rather than just N. O, P, Q, R. 2 R's consecutively is R. Try to roll your tongue when you do it. R. S, T, U, V, double U. And W is only used in foreign words like waffle, waffle. X is X, Y, and Z. Y in a word is usually pronounced as E, like I. The vowels are the most confusing in Spanish because a lot of them switch places with another one. So it's A is A, E is A, I is E, O is O, U is U. O is the only one that is itself. So a bit more basic grammar, things to know. Stress is when you emphasize one syllable of a word, and natural stress occurs naturally. So if a word ends with a vowel or the letter N or the letter S, the stress is on the next to last syllable. So for example, the word lápiz, lápices. This word usually has an accent, which we'll talk about later. But if it didn't have an accent, the stress should be on the next to last syllable. So it's la is one syllable, pi, ses. So the stress should be on this syllable right here, P. On the other hand, if a word ends with a consonant that's not N or S, the stress is on the next to last syllable. So lápiz, which is the singular form of the word we looked earlier. Lápiz without an accent. Lápiz usually has an accent. The syllables are la and pis, and stress is on the last syllable since it ends with a z. So this is where the stress is. Accents. So accents show you where stress is if it doesn't follow the natural stress rules. So lápiz actually has an accent on the A. So that means that it should be lápiz, not lápiz. If it didn't have an accent, like I said, it'll be on the stress, the next to last, the last syllable. One or two syllable words that have accents, the accent doesn't affect the pronunciation, but it's just distinguished from another word that has the same spelling. So for example, si without an accent means if in Spanish. But si with an accent means yes. Interrogative words or questions also have accents, and these don't affect the pronunciation either. Some spelling changes to make sure of in Spanish. A word goes from Z to C when it forms plural. So remember the example we looked at earlier, lápiz and lápices? Well, lápiz ends with a Z, but its plural form, lápices. Sorry for the messy handwriting. Lápices has a C instead of a Z. And this is an example of the Z to C spelling change. Other spelling changes are to maintain sound. We'll talk about this later in another lesson, but buscar is a verb that means to look for. And when it's conjugated in a certain tense, it becomes busque. It's supposed to be like this. But instead, it's like this. It has a QU instead of a C. Busque. This is because when a C is before an E, it sounds as busse. The C sounds like an S. So that's why it needs to change to QU to maintain the sound. Punctuation in Spanish is different than in English. Periods are still periods, but questions, you have to add an upside down question mark before, and same with exclamations. You need to add an upside down exclamation before the sentence. So a bit of necessary vocabulary is greetings and salutations. What you do when you see someone and when you're about to leave someone. So hola is hello. And most people should know this. Another way you can greet someone is by saying buenos dias, which means good morning or good day. If it's afternoon, say buenas tardes, buenas tardes. And buenas noches if it's night. Notice that buenos dias has an OS while the others have an AS. This isn't a typo. As you'll see later this lesson, buenos is an adjective and it must change to match días, tardes, and noches. To say what your name is, to introduce yourself, you say me llamo. For example, me llamo Sanjay. ¿Cómo te llamas? Asks the other person's name. Mucho gusto is how you say pleased to meet you. Usually when you meet someone, you ask, how are you? And that's, you say, ¿Cómo estás? This is an example of the question marks, same as the ¿Cómo te llamas? And how do you answer como estás? You can either say estoy bien, which means I'm doing well, estoy regular, which means I'm doing okay, or estoy mal, which means I'm doing bad. Y tú as and you. So if someone asks you como estás, you can answer their question by using one of these three and then add y tú, which means what about you? Gracias is thank you, and it's a very common word. De nada is how you answer gracias. No problem, or you're welcome. When you're gonna leave someone, you say hasta luego, which is see you later. But you could also say hasta mañana if for sure you know that you'll see them tomorrow. Or hasta pronto, which means you'll see them soon. Or you can just say adios, which is goodbye. Okay, back to grammar. A noun is a person, place, or thing, as you know in English. And a noun can either be masculine or feminine in Spanish, unlike English. So an example of a masculine noun would be el hombre, which is the man. It's obviously masculine. And an example of a feminine noun would be la mujer, or the woman. Definite article is the. It's a specific, it shows a specific noun. And it agrees in number and gender with the noun. Now, when I wrote el hombre and la mujer, you might have noticed the el and la, and that's the definite article. For masculine singular, it's el. For masculine plural, it's los. For feminine singular, it's la, and for feminine plural, it's las. So singular nouns, masculine uses L, like I said, and it ends, most of the masculine nouns end with O. For example, el mundo means the world, and that's masculine. Some also end with a or ma, and an example of this is el drama, which is the drama. And there are others too, like I said, el hombre, and that ends with an E. That's still masculine though. Feminine uses la, like I said, and this usually ends with A. So for example, it can be la cocina, the kitchen. Some also end with sion, dad, tad, or tud. And this is also common. An example is la canción, the song. Some end with O, but this is less common. And an example of this is la mano, the hand. And some fall in the category of other, like la mujer ends with R. Some words are masculine and feminine. They can be either. And most of them end with ista, like dentista. That can either be a masculine dentist or a feminine dentist. And some end with inte, like estudiante. That's either a masculine student or a feminine student. There are others too, but less rare. Now, plural nouns. How to plural nouns? So if it ends with a vowel, you add an S to the end. For example, el mundo becomes los mundos. If it ends with a consonant, add es. So la mujer becomes las mujeres. For masculine, like I mentioned, el becomes los. For feminine, la becomes las. Now, indefinite articles are another type of article, and these are a, an, and some. And these are referred to general. So you say a book, not the book. And again, these agree in number and gender. These are the indefinite articles. For masculine, it's un and unos. For feminine, it's un, una, and unas. Adjectives. So now that we talked about nouns, we talk about adjectives, which describes a noun. This also agrees in noun and gender. Like I said with buenos dias versus buenas tardes. It almost always follows a noun, but there are exceptions. An example would be el gato negro, which is the black cat. So the three main types of adjectives, one ends with o or a. It usually ends with o because that's the general form, but it switches to o for masculine and a for feminine. An example would be bueno. It becomes a for feminine. If an adjective ends with a consonant, there's two types. One is when you add an a for the feminine. So trabajador, which means hardworking, and then trabajadora, which is for the feminine. Another type is when it's the same for masculine and feminine. So an example would be inteligente. This doesn't end with a consonant, but there are certain adjectives that end with a consonant and are the same for masculine and feminine. Inteligente ends with E. And like I said, it's the same for masculine and feminine. Okay, plural adjectives. To pluralize adjectives, you add S if it ends with the vowel and add ES if it ends with the consonant. Same for nouns. Now we're going to talk about a bit more sentence related. So a subject is a noun that does the action in a sentence. A pronoun replaces a noun in a sentence. So for example, if we had Jack ate, we can instead write he ate. This is the subject of the sentence, and this is the pronoun that replaces it. So a pronoun that replaces a subject, that's called a subject pronoun. There is no subject pronoun in Spanish for it. You would just have to use he or she, depending on the gender of the object. So these are the subject pronouns in Spanish. First person refers to the person who's speaking. Second person refers to the person spoken to. And the third person refers to the person spoken about. So I will become yo. And nosotros, we would become nosotros and nosotras. Nosotros is for masculine, nosotras is for feminine. Now in Spanish, there's a concept of you familiar and you formal. You familiar is for friends and family, but you formal is for person you're meeting the first time. So tú is the you familiar. Notice that the you formal goes under the third person instead of the second person. Usted is the you formal, and it can be abbreviated as UD. Vosotros and vosotras is the y'all familiar, the plural of tú. And like with nosotros and nosotras, it's for masculine and feminine. Ustedes is the plural of usted, and it's abbreviated UDS. It's formal y'all. And then he is written as él, she is written as ella. In the plural form, they is either ellos or ellas, depending on the gender. An important concept is that if there's all masculine, then you use nosotros. If there's all feminine, you use nosotras. But if there's like 99 feminine and one masculine, you still use nosotros. If there's even one masculine member in the group, you use nosotros. Same with the others, vosotros and ellos too. A verb is usually the action of a sentence. For example, he ate. Ate would be the verb. The infinitive is the unconjugated form. And in English, it's usually to plus verb. So in English, it'll be to eat. In Spanish, there are three types, AR, ER, and IR. And these are the endings of the verbs. A conjugation is when the verb belongs to a specific subject and tense. So we'll mostly talk about the present tense in the beginning. And for example, the conjugation of the verb would belong to first person singular. This is the specific subject, and present tense. That's it for today's class. Thank you very much. Bye.